Hey, Marilyn.
Hi.
Hi, did you see my reply? Did you see Tasmia's note that her mother is not feeling well? And so Tasmia is going to talk a little bit. I wrote back to her and asked her to maybe talk a little bit about her mother.
Okay.
Are you able to, do you have all the titles? Did anyone send you everything? Or would we be able to put anything in the chat?
Titles of what?
Of the books that they'll be talking about, or we can ask the authors to do that.
Oh, I can add them in now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Now, are you seeing me just as a little picture
No,
and you as the full picture?
no.
Maybe.
I put you on gallery view and there's only two of us, so we're both kind of big.
Oh, here I am.
Yeah.
So let me go into chat, which is. Now, where is chat? I'm looking.
It's down below. It's right sort of, well, on mine, it's in the middle of the screen at the bottom and it says chat.
Okay. So start with our first author and put her name of her book.
Yes.
Well, let me think here. She's the poet with a lot of books, so I think
I'm wondering if I'm not sure exactly what book she's going to be talking about. So maybe we can ask when they come on at 7:15, we can ask them to put their information in the chat so that it's the book that they'll be talking about. I don't know.
Well, she's a poet, and so it lists all the books or organizations she's published poets in. Do you have our write-up about each person?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want, yeah.
Usually we haven't done that, but we can do whatever you want.
Well, I think maybe we should ask them to put their book in because they may not want every single book put in, and only the one that they want us to look at. So if everyone comes on time, I guess you can put, since Dil Banu only has one book, you could put that one in.
Okay.
And do we know if Rabia Chaudry is going to be here tonight? Oh, good. Okay. She's a big deal.
I know. So I'll put Tasmia's going to talk for her mother, right?
Yes.
How's that?
Sure.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know who published it or how maybe Tasmia can enlighten us on that, or how one would purchase it. But
well, Dil has a website.
Oh, put the website in.
I don't have that in front of me, but most of our authors do have websites.
Ooh, all right. Well, then put those up.
But I don't have
them.
I don't have them.
Oh,
I
okay,
just have our blurbs that we
okay.
wrote.
All right,
Except
so,
Michael Gibson gave me his
okay,
website. You want me to put his in?
sure. Yeah, so for next time, that's what we can, get websites. If there's going to be a fourth, right?
If there's gonna what?
If there's going to be a fourth version of this.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter that it's out of order.
No.
Okay.
Tammy just asked me if she was going to get on, so I don't know who the iPhone is.
Is Tammy gonna get on?
Yeah, she said, "Are you ready for me to get on?" I said, "Sure." So I don't know who the iPhone is.
Rabia should probably write her own in the chat because I wouldn't know what of all these things what she'd want to
Yeah.
say.
Okay, so we'll ask her to do that if she gets on. So
But is that iPhone, is that Tammy?
I don't know. There's Tasmia. Yay. Hi, Tasmia.
Oh, hi, Judy.
Hi, I'm so sorry that your mother doesn't feel well.
Oh, so you saw that note. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you could just talk about her. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
I could read a little bit about what the book is about, or you can do that. But she sounds like she has such an interesting story, and it would be great if you could just tell us a little bit about her.
Okay, so I will take only like 1 minute for that. I'll show her book. I got her book here.
Okay.
And talk about her in general. And if you want to add other notes, because I'm not really prepared to speak today.
I know, but thank you for jumping in like that.
Okay, thank you.
So I've asked Marilyn to put the titles in the chat. And she just wrote the title of the book of, your mother's book, but is there a way that we can tell people where it's available?
Oh, that's in Amazon, yes. The book is available.
All right. Okay. And if you could mention that, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, I
Cool.
can all the.
Hi, Michael.
Hey there.
Hey, Michael.
Hey.
So Michael, yeah, so I asked Marilyn to put your website in the chat. I don't know if you want to put specific titles, highlight specific titles, or put anything else in.
Yeah, I sent Marilyn the links to the books. People can just click on the link and go to the book.
Okay.
And I don't know if that'll work or not.
Would it be okay if they just looked on your webpage?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
mmgibson.com, right?
Yeah, it's in there.
Can you see the chat?
I can. If you hold on just 1 second. I had something on the keyboard there.
Hi, Nancy.
Yeah.
I'm Judy
Hi.
Ozoni.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, thank you for
Hi,
coming,
Michael,
participating.
Tasmia,
Hello.
Yes.
Karen,
Hi, Karen.
Marilyn.
Oh, I love your poster behind you. That's
Oh.
perfect.
My poster.
No, Karen has a poster with the
Oh,
cover.
how cool. Lula Lamby, the book.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to have to go when everybody gets on. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing everybody's name correctly. So Nancy Allinson, is that right?
That's it.
And Karen, are you Levy or
Levy.
Levy? Okay. Long E. Okay. And Tasmia, I know you. And Michael Gibson. I think I've got that one down.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Are you Marilyn? I can only see Bradley Hills, so I can't see your name.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm Marilyn, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Marilyn Allen.
I guess out of process of elimination. Okay.
Marilyn, if you want your name to show, you can go click
can-
on the name and you can add. If you find your name in participants and see where it says 3 dots, click on that and it says rename. And you can add your name after Bradley Hills Presbyterian Church. Do you see that?
Now, what I see, it says invite.
No.
I should click on
No.
participants.
No, go up to your name under participants, which you're the second Bradley Hills.
Yeah,
And there's a box with 3 dots. Do you see that?
yes,
Click on that and scroll down and it says rename and click on that.
okay.
So. Hi, Tammy. There you are.
Hello.
Hi. This is Tammy Wong, who is also a member of Bradley Hills. And do you want me to introduce you to everyone?
I'm Tammy Wong, and I'm new to this interfaith group, but
I dragged her in.
I'm happy to help and to be involved. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
So we still don't know who the iPhone is.
There's Karen.
Oh, there's Karen.
And I don't know who Missy is. Missy's on.
That's Clint's wife,
Clint.
Clint Kelly's wife, Missy.
Oh,
Hey, Karen, are you Levy or Levy?
she's on mute.
Levy.
Levy. All right.
We're both Levy, but one is with an I and one is
Yeah.
with a Y.
One is wearing pink and the other is.
Must be Clint. Missy's iPad. Okay.
There's Clint. Yeah, but do you want to be Clint or do you want to be Missy's iPad? Do you want to rename yourself? So people know who. Sorry?
I said it doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
Would you like to be called Missy's iPad?
That'll work.
Okay, I'll call you Missy's iPad. What is your real name? What is your name?
It's Dr. Clinton Kelly III.
Dr. Kelly? Do you like to be called Dr. Kelly or do you want to be called Clint?
Clint.
Okay, Clint. Okay.
Except when trying to get medical help, and then it's
Right,
useful.
there you go. Not tonight. Yeah.
Till they figure out it's a PhD, not an MD.
Oh.
All right. So Clint, we are putting book information in the chat. If you want to put your title in and where it can be obtained, that would be great.
It can't be obtained.
It can't be. Okay. Or,
Uh, the short story is that we had several people at publishers, but when we went through the arithmetic, particularly on the tax side, it just didn't make any sense to try and sell it. So we had 500 copies printed. We probably will do another 500 and we just give them away. And actually, that's not quite true. We have auctioned some off at the National Zoo and at the zoo here in Louisville.
oh my goodness. So if someone is really interested in
They should
getting a
call.
copy of the book.
They
Sorry.
should let me know.
Okay. Can I say that or
Yes,
not?
but I reserve the option of telling them we've run.
Okay, maybe we
What?
will.
What did you say, Clint?
I said I reserve the option if someone asks for a copy to tell them that we have run out because there are not very many left. I'm happy to give them all away, but we're reaching the end. We
Okay.
probably will do another 500. The issue came up of dealing with the IRS and having to handle revenue, which was probably easy, but deductions. So we talked with our accountant and with our lawyer, and the lawyer had some experience working with authors, and the issue comes up, what's an allowable expense? So you say, well, I've taken this trip to the South Atlantic and I photographed this penguin, and you would end up with conversations like, well, this trip was X days. Now, how many hours were you actually spent on that trip photographing penguins? So you get into these crazy kinds of conversations. It just wasn't worth it. Just cheaper to pay for the printing.
Okay, so maybe I won't say anything, and it may come up and then I'll let you answer it.
I
Okay,
just put all my information in.
yes, thank you so much.
Clint, would it be okay if I put something in the chat that just the title of your book?
Yeah, it's called, did you see it?
Yes.
In Pursuit of All the World's Penguins.
Lovely.
Okay, I'll just put it in the chat.
I got them all in there now.
I've got it, Clint.
And Marilyn, I also send you the link from the Amazon link for Dil Banu's book.
Oh,
Okay.
good, okay. Yeah,
Did
if
you
you could
did you put it in the chat?
Yeah, I'm for some reason I cannot go to my Gmail while my Zoom is on. So, but I'll see.
Can-
If you want to email it to me, I'll
Yeah,
put it.
I already emailed both of you, Judy and you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Marilyn, if you could put that in, that'd be great. Who are we missing?
I think you're missing
Rabia,
Rabia, yeah. I
Rabia's
texted
in.
her. I texted her. Actually, I forgot to tell you, this is the time we do our prayer, the evening prayer. So when before we were discussing everything, it was 1 hour behind. So
Okay.
I was not worrying. Just because of the time change, it is conflicting. So maybe people are getting a little late for that.
Well, all right, so that's a good point, because for next time, we should keep that in mind.
Yes,
Not
I
to
will. Yeah, I'll also want it, because right now, I mean, we just had a daylight savings date changed. So that's why I was not worrying about it.
Okay, yeah. I'm making notes for what we can do
Yeah.
differently.
Thank you.
Okay. So you all saw Marilyn's email, and
Yeah.
you've watched these before, so you kind of know the order of business. And what I will do is introduce everyone, point out a couple of housekeeping items, like make sure everybody is muted except for the speaker, and put your questions in the chat. And actually, Karen Levy will take care of that portion of it. And you all have 6 or 7 minutes to talk. You can take as much time, you know, or of those 7 minutes as you want, if a little bit less if you have to. And we're not going to have any questions in between, just to make sure that everybody has the same amount of time, and then we'll have time for questions at the end.
Do we have do we have 7 people reading?
We have 6.
I mean, okay, 6. So who have myself?
Well, so Tasmia Dil Banu is not feeling well. And so Tasmia, her daughter, is going to talk a little bit about her book instead. Yeah, I'm sorry she doesn't feel well. And Rabia Hope will join us at 7:30. And she is the 6th author. So, what other housekeeping remarks do I need to make? Just ask people to wait for their questions till the end and to make sure they are muted. And if they are not, I will mute them. Right, Tammy? Or you will mute them. So Tasmia, thank you for putting that in the chat. So Denise is on, and David is going to offer a prayer at the outset, which is very nice. And does anyone have any questions? You all are old Zoom hands, I'm sure, after all this time. Hi, Denise. In case you don't know, Denise is our associate
Hi there.
pastor.
I'm sorry. I'm off doing something, and I'll be back at 7:30.
Okay.
Thank
you. I didn't mean to call you out. Hi, Peggy. How are you?
How are you doing, Judy?
I'm
Good to
fine.
see you.
Glad to see you populate the screen.
Hi, Marilyn. How are you?
Good.
So Peggy is joining us from Florida, our nationwide congregation.
Yes. I counted up. I think we had 7 different states represented last Sunday.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, Clint is coming from Kentucky, right?
Right.
Louisville.
And with daylight saving, and since we're still in Eastern time zone, but about 500 miles west of you, the sun is still high in the sky.
Wow.
That's great this time, but it makes it tough to run in the morning.
Well, good for you for doing that.
It's dark and windy here.
It was really, yeah, it was really cold today. So you missed that. Oh, okay.
I had to wean myself from wearing a very heavy sweater because I know how warm it gets when you're got the lights on and everything when you're doing Zoom. I thought I'd be boiling. So. Mary and Corky. Oh, lots of people.
There's my savior, Elizabeth.
So I listened to Corky's reading and presentation. I listened to Davies as well. That was helpful to have that. It's very helpful.
Yes, thank you for sending that out, Marilyn.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Elizabeth Bullock is our new, you have a title. I'm not sure what it is.
Director of Communications and Administrative Ministries.
How come I didn't know that? Okay.
Yeah, it's super long. I'm so glad that you guys have that everything looks good here.
Well, good, thank you. So David is going to offer the prayer.
David?
Yeah. And I'm still waiting for my co-chair. Where's Marty? So.
She's got 4 minutes.
I shouldn't talk. I'm always jumping on at the last minute. Ah, there's Rabia. Okay.
Oh, here's Marty.
Here's Marty. So Rabia, you're going to have to give me the correct pronunciation of your name.
Sorry about that. I was trying to unmute. It's Rabia Chaudry.
Okay, Chaudry. All right. Hey, Marty. Hi, Evelyn. How are you all?
Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Is this the part where I practice muting people?
They're all populating. Wow.
Yay.
Oh,
I like it when
funny
I
how
see names I don't recognize.
Yeah, a lot of good names. We have at least one
Yeah.
birthday girl I know on here.
Whose birthday?
I see a waving hand from a birthday girl in pink there.
Cindy, happy birthday. You're you're muted.
Fun. And lots of other. Clint there has a nice, good-looking scarf on. That looks fun.
It's cold.
Yeah, it is cold.
Yeah, but you're in Kentucky.
We're
Let's
48 degrees south of where you are latitude was.
My parents said it was cold in Southwest Ohio, and you're not that far from them. I see Lori here, good friend from BJC, and Jim, lots of BJC friends.
Yay.
Rabia, good friends from the mosque. It's great.
And a
Karen,
dog.
yeah. Michael, hi Marilyn. Tasmia, no?
Yeah.
Yay. Good.
So, David, Dil, Tasmia's mother is not feeling well, so Tasmia is going to speak on her mother's behalf.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
give
Yeah.
her our best and let her know we hope she feels better.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, send in best Tasmia. Yeah.
So how about if we wait one more minute?
Sure. Jean's on here. Fun Hill Lane. Good. Well, we're also grateful for all of our speakers tonight. As I said on the pulpit on Sunday, what an incredible just breadth and depth of life experience, wisdom, education, and knowledge that these partner congregations share. Really is extraordinary.
It absolutely is. It gets bigger and more participants every time. This is our third, so that's pretty great.
Pretty great.
You want us to do?
No.
Karen, what's the poster you have behind you? Lulu. That's a cute.
That is the poster of the cover of my book.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Pretty cool.
Thank you.
I see your name on it. Yeah.
I also hung it up sometimes when I was, I'm a teacher for Montgomery County, and sometimes when I was teaching over Zoom, I would hang it up so that they didn't have to look at just, the boring artwork on my wall.
Where do you teach? I probably should know this, but where do you teach?
I teach. I'm a retired DC teacher, but I now teach in Montgomery at a school called Harmony Hills in Aspen Hill.
Great. That's great. Well, I have four kids in the Montgomery County Public Schools, so lots of respect for how hard teachers.
So we can get started. It's 7:32, and I want to make sure that everybody has enough time. So welcome to the third presentation of Authors Among Us. These are presentations that are sponsored by ICPC, which is the Intercongregational Partnership Committee, and it consists of the three congregations that share sacred space at 6601 Bradley Boulevard, and that would be Bethesda Jewish Congregation, Maqaame Ibrahim Islamic Center, and Bradley Hills Presbyterian Church. Tonight, as we're following the same format as our first two presentations, we have 6 authors, 2 from each congregation, and speaking about a wide variety of work, and each author will speak for about 6 or 7 minutes. And so that everyone has a chance to have equal time, we will have our question and answer period after everyone speaks. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat, and Karen Levy will facilitate that portion of the program and either read your questions, or if you want to ask it live, you can just raise your hand. So I will make sure that everyone is muted except for the speakers, and during the presentations, and then I will ask each of the speakers to unmute when it is their turn. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is Nancy Allinson. Nancy is a member of BJC. She's a Maryland poet and a winner of the Bethesda 8 Trolley Poetry Bench competition, and which is great to know because I've always noticed the poetry on those benches, and now I know who is the author, which is wonderful. And so her other work has appeared in numerous literary publications. So Nancy, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Judy. It's really great to be here. I can hear the wind howling out there.
Yeah.
We'll try to create a cozy atmosphere. So I want to also thank Karen Levy with an I, my great friend, for to give a presentation to the authors. And I said, oh, of course, thank you. And also Meryl and Alan, who I'm meeting for the first time, and Marty, where are you? There you are. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I have 3 books of published poetry, and the information on those books is in the chat, so I won't need to go over that again. And just one other little bit of information. I retired from the federal government, where I worked for several agencies, the EPA being the very last one. I retired in 2011 after over 40 years of federal service, and I was working in the area of employee training and education. Thought I would mention that. Anyway, so how did this all begin? How did I start writing poetry? When I was in high school, I took creative writing, and we had an assignment. We were actually supposed to write a play, but I wound up writing a poem. And it had dialogue in it, and my creative writing teacher, I wrote it on yellow legal size paper, and she wrote before, I think there were typewriters, but I wrote it. She wrote at the bottom of it, 4 words: strong, keep on writing. And I took that to heart, and I've been writing ever since. And I thank Mrs. Briskin, where you are, for that. My process is varied. I've been keeping journals for my whole writing life. At one point, I got rid of a lot of journals because I got as much out of them as I could, and I didn't want anyone to read them, so I destroyed them. But I use them to mine ideas, images for my poems. And words very much inspire me, experiences, and also poetry prompts, and just experience in general. What I thought I would do is read 4 different poems if there's time, or 3, and explain my process for each poem. And the first poem I'm going to read is from Under the Catalpa Tree. Can everyone see that? Okay. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my process. My mother was in a nursing home for 12 years, and I kept a journal. I visited her every weekend, and my mother had dementia, but she was one of these people who was fortunate enough to recognize people. She knew their names, and she was a great conversationalist, and I had really good visits with her. And I wrote this poem because it reflects what I was really feeling, that my mother was in a nursing home and she was aging, she was old, and that was really getting to me. So I wrote this poem called Nocturne, and in it you'll see images of the moon, and you'll see some references to aging, photos, and some metaphors I think you'll see as well. Nocturne. There's a spindle moon tonight, shuttered from view. I enter your room, find you sleeping. I lean over your bed, rub your warm shoulder, watch you open your eyes. There's a slip of a moon tonight, like the silver wave brushing your forehead. I pick a few strands off the dark sleeve of your gown, so easy to flick it away. Your youth is in the photo, on the night table, thick auburn hair, all swept up high, round, your face is full. Now your hair seems to wane. I can see the curve of your skull, a crescent of gray light when I look close. At your asking, I turn the handle at the foot of the bed, so icy in my hand. I roll you up. We are both safe now, Mother. The spindle moon is still far away. I don't even turn on the light. And what I realized sometimes when you're writing something, I know other authors will appreciate this, you realize a lot about it after you've written. You look back and you look at it and you see things. And what I saw was the loss I was anticipating, my mother aging, and so it was really in the love I have for her. She died in 2014 at the age of 97. And so she's been a muse for me for my whole life. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about another kind of process that I have, and that is writing from poetry prompts. And my partner, Marty Dickinson, who's away right now and can't be here, we have spent Sunday nights for a long time, especially during the pandemic, writing poems. And we realized after a year that we had enough poems to put into a book. So we put out What a Windstorm. Okay. And this poem, well, I just want to mention the prompts and so on. We had gone to the National Geographic Museum and saw some virtual formats of Old Jerusalem, Israel, and other, I think, parts of the Middle East. It's been a while. And we went to Israel after that. So this is the virtual reality. Israel was much better. Virtual reality. It is so easy. Put on a special headset, equipped with earphones. Look down. You're entering the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, sometimes referred to as the Edicule, where the tomb of Jesus is enshrined. The tomb should be empty. Periodically, it is unsealed to make sure. Or put on dark glasses and watch an IMAX movie. Go to the Western Wall, watch the Bar Mitzvah boy reading his Torah portion, or enter the narrow stall of a vendor inside the Damascus gate of Jerusalem and buy crosses made from olive wood, figs, rosary beads, brass menorahs, and Hanukkah candles. This reality that you can see and feel is like a dream. As soon as you take off the headset, poof, it's gone. You can imagine just about anything, it seems. I sometimes wonder if all this exposure to virtual reality, all this immersion in something that feels true but isn't, can somehow mess up the brain structure, damage the synapses, cause early onset dementia, or even some form of psychosis when you can't tell fact from fiction. When one day you wake up and your mind has shattered into millions of little fragments, like sand blowing in a windstorm. And the prompt that night was windstorm, and that's how we came up with the title. So that's another process. Do I have time for one or two more? How are we doing? Okay, I'll keep going. My father made violins. I love music. I love all kinds of music. And I would go to visit him when they lived in Chicago and then in Florida. And he would sit at his kitchen table and he'd make drawings and piece together wood. And he made all kinds of violins. He must have made about 33 of them or 30 of them. And I just had to write this poem. My father makes violins. He made his first from an old cigar box where cigars once lay side by side, a happy family sharing one bed. It fell apart in his arms. Now he searches for thin wood, less than 1/8 of an inch thick, for aged wood at least 100 years old, Sitka spruce from Alaska. My father searches for abandoned wood, maple from old piano soundboards, cracked from too much pounding of the keys, old arguments pulled up inside the grain. He tries to chisel out the ghosts, wood dust falls to the floor, memories he does not want to recall, return each time he tries again. There's a lot of emotion in here from the journals I've written. There's more than about violins, but I just want to give you a sense for that. I want to end on a happy note, a happier note, I should say. I love playing with words. I love the sounds, the rhymes, everything we do with words. And I wrote this poem, if I can find it. And it's a Yiddish word. The word is knipl, K-N-I-P-L, and it means a nest egg or a treasure. And this poem makes me happy, and I hope it will make you happy as well. You might find yourself in a real pickle, a narrow and unlikely place to be, a moist and tangy conundrum where your thoughts ripple through your body in search of a knipl, something to dream about. Now you could add a D, an M, and a P, and wonder, what could you hide in a dimple? The last drip of a chocolate smear from the Hershey syrup bottle where you took a little sip or dip with your fingers? I say, let's find a stipple, a dapple or a fiddle, on a grouchy hill of stars and silver where a song is stashed away. It was made in a temple that light was made from oil. And in the rumple of a minute, ruffled by the wind, a rainbow found a nipple. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That is so wonderful. What fun with words. Thank you so much. So I'm not sure if some of you heard that Dil Banu is not feeling well. So her daughter, Tesmia Noor, will talk a little bit about her mother's book and about her mother. Tesmia?
Yeah, hi everyone. This is her book. The name of the book, can you see my book?
Can you hold it up just a little bit higher?
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, the name of the book is Anna Asked, Was Muhammad a Prophet? My mother, she was a retired professor from Bangladesh, and she's living in USA almost like over 30 years. And all through her life, I've seen her, she loves scripture. She loves Quran, and she loves reading Bible, and she reads lots of variety of books. But lately, her writings are focusing on Quran and Bible, and finding a niche topic and then developing the topic accordingly. But this particular book really started with an experience that my mother and we both went Smoky Mountain, and on the way back, we kind of missed our bus. So we got 2 different seats, and she sat next to a wonderfully young lady. Her name is Anna. Anna is like my mother's granddaughter's age. She is so young, and my mother and they become very good friend in the entire trip. I was jealous and watching them a little far away. I was sitting in another seat, and they were chatting, and then they really became a good friend. So at one point of our conversation, and actually she is also a student of theology, and she asked my mom that whether whether Muhammad is a prophet. So she came back home, and then she wrote this book, because all the ideas she collected from Bible and Quran, and she dedicated the book to Anna. So I'm going to read just 2 lines from a reviewer. His name is Aaron Washington. He wrote a review on this book. So that's how it goes. Author Dil Banu first started by defining what prophecy is. I was impressed with her detailed explanation, as it made me have a deeper understanding of the definition and why God's people are referred to as a prophets. There are so many people who claim to be prophets in today's world. This can be confusing to believers who follow anyone who proclaims the word. The author further expounded on the subject of false prophecy with a Bible verse. The number of the Bible verse is Duet 18:21-22. Through that verse, we learn the true prophets make correct prophecies, but it is God who inspires them. False prophets, on the other hand, rely on the imagination, making them fail most of the times. Dil Banu's intent when writing Anna asked was Muhammad a prophet, was to show the link between Muhammad and the prophets in the Bible. So that's how I want to end. This is a short introduction, but it talks more about the book and why she wrote the book.
Oh, Tasmia, thank you. That is such a great origin story for that book, to be sitting next to someone on the bus that engendered that whole process. That is really wonderful. Thank you.
And I also put the link on the chat, the Amazon book. It's available in Amazon.
Yeah, good old Amazon. Thank you. Our next speaker is Rabia Chaudry. She is an affiliate member of MIIC and is an attorney, advocate, and author of the New York Times bestseller, Adnan's Story. And she was the executive producer of the 4-part HBO documentary series, the widely seen and acclaimed The Case Against Adnan Syed. And her recent book is my favorite title ever, Fatty, Fatty, Boom, Boom, a memoir of food, fat, and family. Rabia?
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me, and good evening to everybody. It's a real honor to be among this group. So, as my introduction mentioned, I am an attorney by profession. And when I was in law school, I experienced firsthand sitting through the trial that ended in a wrongful conviction of a young man who happened to be my younger brother's best friend. His name was Adnan Syed in Baltimore, and he was 17 at the time of his arrest. And I spent 23 years trying to help exonerate him. He was exonerated finally in September of this past year, and he gained his freedom and charges were dropped against him. But as someone who became an attorney right around 9/11, I became part of that group of young American Muslims who, without wanting to, became advocates and activists in the community because we were called upon to defend our community over and over again. And so I am a reluctant author, but I am an advocate, and I've been an advocate on lots of different issues. And to be honest, this first book Adnan story. This is the paperback. This was also a work of advocacy. The purpose behind this book was to help exonerate Adnan, to make the case for his freedom. It came out in 2016, and it did become an HBO documentary series, which went well beyond the investigative work in the book itself. And you know, we were blessed that it became a New York Times bestseller. It got incredible attention, and it did help move the case forward. It brought a lot of resources to the case. And I was immediately asked by the publisher and my agent to write another book. But the first book, I don't want to say it nearly killed me, but it nearly killed me. I mean, because I was writing not just the story of the Muslim community experiencing this arrest pre 9/11. See, after 9/11, it's widely accepted there was a lot of discrimination against the Muslim community, especially in criminal justice and national security circles. People seem to forget that it actually existed before 9/11. So when this young man was arrested in 1999, his religion and ethnicity was brought up in his trial more than 300 times. You know, it's egregious. And so for us, the fallout of what happened in that trial to the community was really important for me to capture in the story. I have included 17 years worth of letters between Adnan and myself as I tried to help his family navigate the appeal system. But it's an investigative book. So I had the police files, and I'm talking about tens of thousands of documents that I went through day by day by day and said, on this day, this happened, on this day, the victim disappeared, on this day. And so it was a very research heavy book. I did not have a research assistant. I didn't have a ghostwriter, and I had 6 months to complete the book. And I did. And so when I was asked to write another book, I thought, what can I write that will take absolutely no research? Oh, a memoir. It's all in my head. It's my own story. The question then became, what kind of memoir did I want to write? Did I want to write about my advocacy work? Did I want to write about the public facing work that, anybody who knows me knows that I've done in criminal justice? And I decided, no, I wanted to tell the story that I've never talked about before, which is the story of, I'm 48 years old, of a lifetime of struggling with weight and body image issues and societal and family expectations to look a certain way. The fear that my family had starting when I was very little, maybe 3 or 4 years old, that she'll never get married because she's like this butterball of a girl. At the same time, there was never any malice. And I remember when I wrote the proposal, I said, the spirit of this book and the spirit of my family is like the family from my big fat Greek wedding. Loving, funny, concerned, but crazy at the end of the day. So the book is actually quite lighthearted, and it documents just chapter by chapter, like the chronology of my life, all the weight issues, but also it's rich with food stories, because some of our best stories are food stories around our families and our traditions. And when you're Muslim, food is almost all the fun you get to have. You're not drinking and you're not doing drugs and you're not partying any other way. Like, food is it. That's all we got. So there's a lot, and I actually ended up putting 10 recipes in the back of the book. I'm a big cook. I entertain a lot. I cook for hundreds of people with my own hands. And it took me up until 4 years ago, when I was 44, to finally come to terms with my body and accept it and believe that I'm worthy, and kind of make friends with my body. So it's been an incredibly gratifying experience. The book came out just this past fall. At the same time, my father was in hospice care in my home, and he did pass away in December. And it was very gratifying that he got to see the book published, and then I got to memorialize him and capture him in this book. I got to do a 16-city tour and meet women, a lot of women readers, from around the country. This book really resonates with. And I think one of the most gratifying things I've heard over and over again is that, Rabia, you and I have nothing in common. I'm a white lady from the Midwest, but this is my story. Like, you've told my story. Everything about this resonates with me. So it's been tremendous to be able to tell a very human story and just be really vulnerable in it. And so, I've got a few more books in my head, so we'll see what comes next. Thank you, guys.
That's wonderful. Talk about a subject that does cross all continents, all religions, everything. Thank you so much. So our next author is Michael Gibson. Michael is a member of BHPC, and he serves as an administrative judge the Nuclear Regulatory Commission during the day, but he devotes his nights and weekends to researching and writing. Michael is the author of a contemporary social critique called "Can We Stop the Radical Religious Right?" Michael?
Well, thank you. I've written 3 books that might be of interest to you, as well as a 4th book that definitely won't be of interest to anybody. The 3 books that you may find of interest are the one that Judy just mentioned, a short nonfiction book that I put together called "Can We Stop the Radical Religious Right?" I also have published 2 historically accurate novels set in World War II. One is entitled "The Broom Cornfield," and the other is entitled "Leaving Pontotoc County." The 4th book that was published back in 1993 carries the catchy title "Environmental Regulation of Petroleum Spills and Wastes." Now, that book was written right after the Exxon Valdez spill about the Oil Pollution Act of 1990. But it is my understanding that to this day, it remains at the top of the bestsellers list for Insomniacs Anonymous. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about that or any of these books. But for the next amount of my time, I'm going to devote it to my 2 World War II novels. And even though I practiced law for 33 years, and I've served as an administrative judge for the last 14, going on 15 years now, I've always been fascinated with World War II. So when my wife and I became empty nesters a little over a decade ago, I spent most of my nights and weekends immersing myself in World War II. In the course of doing that, I hit upon the idea of writing an historically accurate novel set in the war. With time, though, my writing project mushroomed completely out of all proportion, and I should add to my wife's great chagrin, I realized that I actually had 2 novels. More on that shortly. I want to talk briefly, though, about the narrative structure of my historically accurate fiction. It is best described as roman fleuve, which is a French term that literally means river novel, in which the same characters appear over and over in different books. In these 2 novels, the lives of 3 young adult protagonists are interconnected, and if I can live long enough to pull this off, I'll be writing future books about these same characters and about their descendants during the post-World War II period. But real quickly, here's a synopsis of my novels. We'll begin with The Broom Cornfield, whose protagonist is Virgil Davis. Virgil is a high school senior in the lead to be a class valedictorian, but he never gets to finish high school because he instead enlists in the Army after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Once Virgil is in the Army, he's selected to serve in the most elite fighting force of World War II, which is the 1st Ranger Battalion. Virgil also meets Dorothy Smith, a girl with whom he spends all of 2 minutes at a train depot, but they end up corresponding with each other, and through their correspondence, they fall in love. Now, because The Broom Cornfield is told from Virgil's point of view, it is not in any way an epistolary novel, but at the same time, because Virgil reads closely Dorothy's letters to him, it enables the reader to see Dorothy's character develop as the war drags on. The other novel, Leaving Pontotoc County, features 2 protagonists, Meredith Knox and Phyllis Moore, both of whom I should add are Presbyterians. Meredith is a rich, drop-dead, gorgeous, brilliant sorority girl who eventually marries the brother of the other protagonist in this novel, Phyllis. But then during the middle of the war, Meredith finds herself pregnant. And so she returns to her parents' home to give birth and to raise her child. And while she is there, she makes a remarkable discovery about her childhood. The second protagonist, Phyllis, is a debutante who ends up going to college solely in order to rid herself of the boredom and isolation that she suffers once her husband goes overseas. When Phyllis gets to college, she decides that it's really important to pick the most ladylike of all majors, and so she picks home economics. But she ends up becoming a dietitian and ultimately serves as an officer on a hospital ship and later on the front lines in France. But while Meredith and Phyllis are stateside, they are forced to cope for years with the intense privations that characterized wartime America. Not merely rationing everything imaginable, but also trying to carve a life for themselves without their husbands. While the men who served in the war, like Virgil, were certainly heroes, it's important to realize that America's women played heroic roles as well. And their sacrifice and dedication to the war effort is one of the great untold stories of the war. One more thing as I'm getting ready to close, Judy. I am working on a script for a television series based on these two novels entitled War and Innocence. If it ever gets produced, and I'm not saying it will, but if it ever does, the series would be called War and Innocence. So if you or your book club are interested in any way, you can check the chat there. It shows my website, but you can also email me at mmgibsonhistory@gmail.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. And we can say we knew you when. Our next author is Clint Kelly, Dr. Clinton Kelly. He is a member of Bradley Hills and has had a career in government and industry, primarily focused on computer science and robotics. Clint and his wife, Missy, photographed wildlife on every continent and in the high Arctic, including 8 years of photographing all 21 species of penguins known in the world. I didn't know there were that many. Clint?
Thank you. I should start off by saying that I'm an engineer by education, but my wife and I, by avocation, are travelers. So we spend a lot of time photographing wildlife, including wildlife in zoos, which can be quite challenging. In 2003, we were along the Antarctic Peninsula, happened to be on a small ship with a penguin biologist and spent a lot of time with him learning about penguins and found them to be endlessly fascinating. There are roughly 21 species. There's a bit of argument about one or two, but they are found from the equator all the way down to pretty close to the South Pole. So they, as a genus, encounter temperatures from over 100 degrees Fahrenheit to about 50 or 60 degrees below zero. They range in height from a little bit less than a foot to about 3 feet, although some of their ancestors way back when were probably 8 to 10 feet tall. And there's been some very interesting work done in retrieving fossils of these ancestral penguins. So we photographed a few on that trip to Antarctica. We made a number of trips back there, I think 9 in total. Most penguins actually are not found in Antarctica. There are 4 species there that breed there. One species that's the emperor that's found there and no place else. And a 5th species, the macaroni, which some people argue is also found in Antarctica, but it depends on whether or not you believe a particular island where they're found is part of the continent or not. So the book is good to exercise with if you're so inclined. It weighs 8.5 pounds. It's 486 pages, 1,002 images, and 14 pages of maps, with the requirement I put on the cartographer that every place name in the book had to appear on a map. I found it so irritating to read books and some places mentioned and they've got a map in there, but the place that's mentioned isn't on the map. So to the best of my knowledge, every place name in this book is on the map. These are some of the images that are contained in the book. That particular penguin is the royal penguin, found on one of the subantarctic islands of Australia called Macquarie Island. Hard to get to, and if you do get there, you may not be able to land because of the water, or it may be raining hard and it's sort of hard to photograph in the rain. We show you a couple more images. These are king penguins, the second largest of the penguins. These images were taken on South Georgia Island. This particular colony had tens of thousands of penguins. It's absolutely incredible place to visit. And then one little last picture. Penguins are birds, people say, but they don't fly, but occasionally they do fly. And if they have to go from point A to point B quickly, they don't swim underwater, they porpoise. And it's absolutely fascinating to watch them do that. The trick, because watching them is so fascinating, is to make sure you press the button on your camera to get pictures of that fascinating behavior. And I can attest to the fact that we saw that a couple of times, and I didn't end up with a single picture because we're just so fascinated watching them. We didn't set out to do a book. We just were interested in seeing them and photographing them. Someone pointed out a penguin book written by Roger Torrey Peterson, all the species that he was able to photograph in 1979. But it was pretty much a penguin book written for people who have great interest in all sorts of habits of the birds. We read a lot of penguin literature, same thing. It was very much intended for people who were doing work on penguins. And so we thought we would write one that not only had some of that material in it, but also talked a bit about the places where penguins are found, and photograph not only the penguins, but other material, both fauna and flora that you find with penguins. Probably the most interesting place we visited, because there are a lot of historic sites where you find penguins, was James Cook's landing place on South Georgia Island, part of those great 4 voyages that he took around the world, and then visiting Scott's hut at Cape Royds, where he put his team together before he headed for the South Pole in 1910. And as you might recall, Allinson beat him to the pole by about 30 days. But it was eerie. The hut is very much as it was when Scott was there. And you could almost imagine it was a movie set and the actors had temporarily left. And in a moment, if you just stayed there, they'd all come back. I've never had a feeling like that before. most interesting part of the book for us is the afterword, where we talked a lot about other places we had visited and our impressions of the status of lots of species around the world. And what we find is that the endangered species, and there are too many of them, are endangered not because of climate change, although that's not universally true, but because of habitat loss. And that's true not only of penguins, but other species as well.
Thank you, Clint. That certainly goes across all of us. It's true for all animals. Thank you so much. And I can't get that image of a 10-foot penguin out of my head. That's pretty amazing. So our last speaker is Karen Levy, who is a member of BJC, and she has worked as a program planner for an international arts organization, a volunteer firefighter, and has been a teacher in the Washington, D.C. area for over 30 years. And Karen has written a children's book called Lululambi. Karen?
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank the ICPC for inviting me to participate in this event tonight. I'm honored to be included with these more grown-up books. Lululambi is my first and only book, and the poster is behind me. And my hope is that people find it a relatable story. I spent 30 years of my teaching as a 5th and 6th grade teacher. So I never really thought about writing a picture book. As a kid, I wrote little books for myself. I remember painstakingly gluing notebook paper onto pieces of heavier paper and crudely making a binding. I wrote a book called Mixed Up Margie when I was about 11, about a girl who was angry at her parents for moving the family from one state to another. Sounds a little autobiographical. But my inspiration for Lululambi really came from these. These little lammies that were given to my daughter when she was very small. And one in particular, believe it or not, this was pink at one time. And this is the lammy that became very important to her. And so she dragged this lammy around to doctors, to the dentist, in the car, to restaurants, family events, stores, you name it. So the book is about a child who's very attached to his lammy, and this attachment is the source of some occasional criticism from family members, especially his sibling who tells the story. With my own daughter taking Lammy along with us many, many times, we had our share of adventures, as you can imagine, like losing Lammy at a restaurant where it got rolled up into the tablecloth at closing time and put in a bag to go to the laundromat the next morning. So you can imagine the frantic moments that ensued. There are similar scenes in the story, though a few are dramatically enhanced, I admit. I chose to have no illustrations of the children in the book. The only person you see is a minor character, a doctor. I wanted to show that the love that a child has for these special kinds of items is universal and not assigned to any particular kind of group or race or gender of child. I use the word lovey in my book. The doctor referred to the lammy as a lovey because when I took my daughter for her 4-year-old checkup and she had Lammy, the doctor said, "Oh, is that your lovey?" And I hadn't heard that before, but I guess people use that term. In my book, a line that appears a few times is, "Don't worry, he won't take it to college," as people would meet Lammy along the way. And we heard that more than once when we were dragging Lammy around. And over the years, I have learned the truth, which is that many kids do take their special loveys to college. And one of the final pictures in the book actually shows Lammy in the dorm room. And it's one of my favorites that the illustrator did. because we know that many of these do end up in college. So I don't know if I'm holding it properly. There we
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
That's better. Right next to the Starbucks coffee cup. And near the end of the book, the boy in the story laughs at his mother, deciding that she too has a lovey, her cell phone, which is typically attached to her all the time. In terms of the process of writing, I was so lucky to have a little guidance from an old family friend who worked for a major publisher in New York. She works with well-known authors, but she was kind enough to read my text and give me feedback. And in fact, she read through 6 edited versions of my book and declared it a B+ at the end. She told me it would be hard for even an A book to get published. I sent off my text and got some lovely rejection letters from publishers. And one day I received a package from a London publisher with a glitzy folder saying publishing contract, but I learned that it was sort of what's considered a vanity contract, meaning sure, they'll publish my book if I give them $3,200 and then they control everything. So I decided to self-publish at that point. I asked a teaching colleague who I knew was terrific at drawing if she would illustrate. She was flattered, but said she didn't think she was good enough. And I told her that makes 2 of us, and she agreed to work with me. I used the self-publishing program at Politics and Prose bookstore in DC. I'm terrible at marketing, but my book, did sell at part of Politics and Prose and still does. And unfortunately, I published, just in the height of the pandemic, but I did do many readings over Zoom to a lot of elementary school classes in various schools. And a very dear teacher friend and BJC member, who is on this Zoom, I might add, used my book in a series of music lessons and even wrote an accompanying song to go with the book. Also, one other thing I was advised to do was to have my book reviewed by a professional review company. And that led to 2 good things. One, the librarian at my school was able to get the book approved to go into school libraries in Montgomery County. It was made easier by the fact that I had a professional review. And the second thing that was lovely was I got notified by Kirkus, the review company, that my book was chosen to appear in an issue of their magazine, both online and in print. And they said that 10% of their independent books are selected for the magazine. So it's very nice to have this tangible, actual piece of paper with my book reviewed in it. So I thank you again for the opportunity to share about my little book. And since I'm finishing off and it's getting later in the evening, I will wish you all sweet dreams with a lovey by your side.
Thank you so much. That is so great. And that's another example of perseverance. So, and I love that it's okay to take your Lammy to college with you, because I think many of us have children who have done that. So thank you all authors so very much. You guys are all so talented, and I'm sure there are many questions. There's some in the chat that I think we'd like to get to if Karen wants to take over and read out some of the questions, and we can start that discussion.
Yes, I will. Just bear with me for a second as I go through here. Some of the people asked questions that were already answered, so I'll leave that. Well, here's a simple one. We'll start out. For Karen Levy, how can we purchase your book?
Sure. So it's available on the Politics and Prose website. And also I sell some of them personally, and I put in the chat, it's early on in the chat. It has the name of the bookstore again, and it has my email. If you want to save a little bit of money, you can email me, and I sell some of them just from myself, my own personal collection of them. Thanks for asking.
Great. For those of you who ask questions, please check the chat because you may have had them answered. I don't want to go over those because it would be redundant. Here's a question for Rabia. Did you find it difficult to switch from fact writing to writing about yourself? Did you find that writing about yourself left you more vulnerable for criticism, or did it strengthen you from societal opinions?
Well, I mean, look, even though Adnan's story is heavily fact-based, it had to be. This is not a research book. There's a narrative woven throughout it. And one of the lessons I've learned in my advocacy is if the way to really change people's hearts and minds is through storytelling. And so I actually spent about 6 months learning the skill and art of storytelling. I took workshops, I took classes, because lawyers aren't great at it. We're very technical writers. And so I had to really kind of change how I conveyed what it is I wanted to convey. And so it wasn't a huge leap in the sense that Adnan's story is definitely a heavier book. I mean, it's an emotionally heavier book. Fatty Fatty Boom Boom, not so much. I've also done a lot of just writing over the years in general. Somebody mentioned, I can't remember, sorry, who, a teacher that inspired them. I remember I had my 7th grade English teacher, Mr. Richards, who I wrote a short murder mystery, which is very telling, but I wrote a short murder mystery. And he said, if you don't have a book published by the time you're 30, my name won't be Mr. Richards. I wasn't 30, I was like in my 40s, but still, at least it, so, it wasn't too hard. But in terms of the vulnerability, I'll be honest, as I was writing it, there were things that my husband and people close to me said, you shouldn't put this in, you shouldn't put this in, you shouldn't put in the fact, for example, that in 2015, I had a gastric sleeve surgery. They said it's going to open you up for criticism and attacks. And I thought, but then it's not if I'm writing a memoir about food, fat, and family and about my weight loss, my weight struggle, not even weight loss, but weight struggle, it would be a lie not to do that, not to include the full story. And I have not at all been criticized for any of it, attacked for any of it. And I think even if I was, there's a point in your life where, I mean, like, you kind of don't care anymore what people have to say. I have quite a thick skin from being on social media for a very long time. So no, it was very important to me to be authentic and honest. And I think that's what helps people connect to your stories.
Okay, this is a question for Karen Levy again, and I have the same question. How did you get your book professionally reviewed?
Well, I called a friend of mine who is actually a reporter and does a lot of book, articles. And she gave me the name of a couple of companies, but like a lot of things, I paid for it. It was a little less because it was a children's book, but I had to pay for someone to review it. And then there was a period of time that went by and then the review came out. It's very simple. It seemed very sort of almost bland to me, but I was told that's how a lot of them are written because it's intended for librarians and other people to make decisions about whether to carry the book. But yeah, I paid for it and it was a few $100s.
Yes, I know us self-published authors tend to spend more than we make. When I do my income tax, it's a losing business by far. Okay, are there any questions from the floor, from the virtual floor? Do I see? Let's see. You can raise your hand virtually or for real.
This is a question that has to do with, it's technical. I love this group tonight. It was wonderful. How do we get the information from the chat? Once this goes away, there's all this information in there. How do we get it?
I don't, does anybody know that? That I don't know. It's a problem with Zoom, I guess. You have to get it down fast.
Oh, you have to save it. You can save it on the click on the bottom where it says save.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Little arrow and it says control enter to send, but there's a save one there as well.
Where does it go then?
It shows up on your computer, and so before you log off, you can just
Oh.
take the whole
I
chat.
just, okay, I just click the arrow and that's it.
Oh, the arrow
Well,
sends.
and I have to go look at exactly where it is. Format. Go ahead. I'll figure it out while you're doing this.
Okay, well, Izzy, did you have a
Here,
question?
I'm sorry, I got it. The little dots, you see the 3 little dots? Hit that, and then it says save chat, hit that one.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I think I saw Izzy's hand.
Yeah, I had a question for Nancy, because I think a lot of people have favorite poems from their own favorite poets that they go back to in like happy times or really sad times. And I'm just wondering, you know, I was especially thinking about it when you read the poem about your mom and then the poem about your dad. Do you treat your own poems that way? Like, do you feel drawn to specific poems that you've written that you go back to at certain times?
That's a good question. I never really thought about it before. I do go back to Nocturne again. That's one I just go back to. If I'm going to read or tell someone about a poem I've written, that's the one I pull up. But I don't in general do that. I read other people's poetry and get inspired by them mainly. But thanks for asking that.
Judy, how much time do we have?
We have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Then, let me see, I just have 3 quick comments. One was, Clint, I think, mentioned that it isn't so much climate change, but habitat loss. I heard that from another, biologist who, is at BJC. And I find that fascinating, and I would like to learn more about that. And then the body image issue, Rabia, I think it's incredible that this crosses cultures, this problem. And then Tasmia, is she around still? When you said your mother wrote about the Quran, I understand that, but did you say she also writes about the Bible, as in the Old Testament and New Testament?
Yes, she researched both Bible and Quran.
Okay, that's fascinating. That's interesting.
Yes, if you read that book, it has lots of quotations from Bibles.
Okay, thank you. So Judy, you want to conclude? I think that's it.
I do. Thank you. I can't tell you how great this has been, and I'm in awe of the talent in all our 3 congregations. It's very exciting, and if BJC the BJC member can get together with Clint, I'm sure there's lots that you can be talking about. There's so much cross-fertilization, and that is the whole idea behind these presentations, to bring all of our congregations together to see that we have so many common interests and such talent across the board. It's really inspiring. Anyway, so we have, I hope that you've all enjoyed it, and I want to thank so many people, and especially Marilyn Allen and Mary Hickey, whose idea this all was. And the people who helped all of us newbies with Zoom, and that would be Elizabeth Bullock and Amy Cortege, and Karen for operating the question and answer. Thank you, thank you. And my co-chair, Marty. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
And hopefully, and on behalf of the ICPC, and you all welcome to join, please. We want to thank you for coming and for all of your questions and for joining us tonight. And we hope to have yet another, because we have not plumbed the depths of our congregation. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Judy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank
Good night, all.
you. Yes. it
Thank
was great.
you. Okay, good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you, Judy
Thank you.
and Marilyn. And that was just great. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, Garrett. I mean, I forgot David's prayer. Sorry, David.
Dear. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.
I'm
Thanks
gonna
much.
go. Bye.
Adios. Bye.
See you at church.
You will.